Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I've come to Pender Nursery in Garner, North Carolina, and I'm super excited for this video. I'm with a longtime friend of mine named Doug Wright, the very first garden center I ever worked at. Doug and I worked together. We've been roommates together with one another. We've spent a lot of time together.
Thick and thin.
Yeah,
yes,
thick
sir.
and thin over the last 30 years. So 35 years we've known one another. Doug has similar experience to me where he has seen the inside of a high-end garden center management, and he has seen the nursery business, seen the landscape trade, retail. So you have a lot to bring, into this industry where you've seen it all. Can you tell me something about yourself, Doug?
Yeah, Jim. First of all, you told me there'd be no math involved, but we do go way back.
Yeah, right.
Started at a garden center in 1986.
Yep.
So 35 years in this industry. Retail, also did like 4 or 5 years with Earthworks.
Yes.
Jim taught me a lot of landscaping tips over there. And 16 years now on the wholesale side of the business at Pender. And I think that all adds up to 35 years.
35 years.
My background education was Michigan State University. It was crop and soil science, so I wanted to save the world from starvation. But working at a garden center,
Right.
I shifted to horticulture. Just absolutely loved my time at a garden center.
Right, and you're an avid gardener as well. So some of us in this business, some folks in the business go home and don't really want to do gardening at their house, but you're actually an avid.
Yeah, it's definitely my passion, and I know pretty much all the plants I'm going to talk about today are in my backyard and thriving.
Right, and I shot a one-day landscape job at Doug's house that I'll link up here in the corner that you can see, a little small landscape job that I did there that Doug has maintained quite well. I saw it recently. So let's get started on some of your favorite plants. We're in the middle of a group of them.
Yeah, this is Marvel Mahonia, and one of the things in common in all the plants I'm going to point out today, talking about not very finicky, easy to take care of plants that are versatile in the landscape, multi-purpose. And what's so awesome about Marvel Mahonia, first of all, it's this really cool foliage that the Mahonia has on the leaflets. And good place to grow this one is in shady corners. I found it to be pretty drought tolerant as well. But what's really fun about this plant is I think usually in December, right after Thanksgiving, December-ish, it's the biggest blooms I've seen on any of the Mahonias. And it's really quite showy in the landscape when not much else in the landscape's going on. It's also cool to see all the bees and the pollinators going to it when there's at a time of year where there's not much to feed on. These will get pretty big. I'm thinking at least full grown, probably 7-8 feet around there. So give them some space, but this is a great, easy to take care of plant for shaded areas.
Yeah, and you talked about dry. The one I have in my landscape at my house is probably in the driest shade spot in the landscape, and that thing is just, everything else is like this, and the Marvel Mahoney is just sitting there like, what's wrong with you guys? What's wrong with you guys?
Right.
Yeah. So
it'll give a really good contrast in a shade garden with this type of foliage it's got.
For sure. Okay, let's move on. So we've come over to a group of Moonlit Viburnum. This is a really beautiful plant. What can you tell folks about this one, Doug?
Well, I got a lot to say about this plant. Again, one of my favorites. The biggest things to mention on Moonlit Viburnum is the fact that it's really super versatile. I think it's very underutilized right now as a plant. It's a cross between the old Viburnum davidi and Viburnum tinus. It is evergreen, stays very compact. You can grow this plant about anywhere because, and don't hold me to swamps and things like that, but it'll handle a wide variety of sun conditions. We have some by our office that's getting full sun. Have two of them in my yard that are getting part shade. But this plant will stay really tight on its own. It's not going to require any kind of pruning. It'll get blooms, white blooms in the springtime on panicles about this big around.
So pretty traditional viburnum.
Pretty traditional viburnum.
White.
Yeah.
Viburnums.
It'll get some berries. I haven't seen a lot of berries on this plant in my house, but thing about Moonlit Viburnum is this makes a great foundation plant because of its size and compact growth habit. I think it's pretty enough to do it as a specimen plant. But I have seen so few problems on this plant.
Right, super
Jim.
Clean. Every leaf in here is just super clean.
No leaf spot issues. The bugs seem to stay off it.
Right.
I think it's the deer. It's not their favorite in the yard. Just a really versatile plant that I think people need to be using a lot more of, as opposed to traditional hollies and things.
Right, and then so its compact habit is definitely from Viburnum tinus, and then it has the beautiful foliage is coming from Viburnum davidii. So it's that perfect combo where they found, where they got the foliage that they were looking for, and they got the compact habit that they were looking for. It's like
exactly.
Just a perfect combo of
and
that.
These, by the way, are 7-gallon containers we're standing in here, so that's one reason they're looking large like this. But these are big containers.
Next up on Doug's favorites is Oakleaf Hydrangeas as a group, and you guys grow a lot of varieties actually here.
Yeah, Jim, we're doing 4 different varieties. Oakleaf Hydrangea here, 2 dwarf varieties and 2 taller ones. Right. This particular one here is Peewee Hydrangea, which is a dwarf. But what fires me up about Oakleaf Hydrangeas is, and there's so many different types of hydrangeas on the market, but the Oakleaf is so awesome with the classic big leaf that it's got, and all the things this plant does in the landscape is really exciting. Starting with the flowers, it puts out usually late spring, early summer, big, large cones of white flowers that'll frequently they'll fade out to pink or red depending on the variety. So that's really fun to see those flowers. And then Oakleaf Hydrangeas are just outstanding fall color. These leaves will turn kind of a dark red burgundy in the fall, which is really nice in the landscape. I don't know of any other hydrangea that does fall color like this one.
Right.
And also, even when
some of the mountain hydrangeas will get the red, good
serratas.
red fall colors. Yeah. Maybe in the north where it's a little cooler and their summers don't beat them up as much. But yeah, this is the one that's consistent.
Yeah.
Like you screams fall color.
Well, here in central North Carolina, in my yard, I sometimes battle to find some really good true fall color.
Right.
So they get going, and this one will do it for sure. The other really fun thing is when after the leaves drop, it has some really interesting exfoliating bark to it.
Yeah.
So it has some winter attraction. So, boy, for a plant that's got some all-year attraction, it's really, really hard to beat a Oakleaf Hydrangea.
Yeah, I agree. And that they get the 4 seasons, and then the other thing is drought tolerant in the shade. Once established, initially it can take a little bit to get them established. Once they're kind of bulletproof, even around tree roots.
Right.
And then my last point would be they're native. So one of our 2 native hydrangeas to the southeast and to the eastern United States. So we've come to a very small group of Stellar Ruby Magnolias. I did a video with Pat McCracken, this similar 5 favorite plant video, and he was the person who actually is the plant breeder for this one. You guys have a small block because this thing sells pretty quickly.
It's a steady seller, Jim. Customers that garden centers, landscapers that buy these from Pender almost always rebuy them because they've had good success with this plant.
Right. What do you love about it?
Well, first and foremost, what really I like about this plant is just the dark green, shiny foliage to it. Is a really attractive evergreen in my yard. I do have 2 of them. Right. And I like the fact they grow nice and dense. And also, real importantly, this is not a finicky plant. No. During a tough growing year that we've had here in central North Carolina, boy, all I have to do with mine is give it some water during drought times and fertilize it a couple times a year, and it's good to go. Also really enjoy the flowers that come out
Right.
in the springtime on them because they're fragrant with kind of a banana scent to them.
Right.
They're a little bit kind of a pinkish red in the springtime, and then sometimes later in the year they'll reappear.
And I think it's on nighttime temperature or something. There's some of these early fall blooming plants that seem to be like when the days shorten or the temperature changes, it triggers a rebloom on them. Yeah.
But it's another plant that's really versatile in the landscape. It's attractive enough to be a specimen plant or a standalone plant. The size that it gets, which is 8 to 10 feet, that allows it. You can make a hedge if you wanted to out of these, or some screenings for some privacy.
Right,
or corner
you stole
areas.
that. That's how I was going to finish this little block. But yeah, the other thing about that screening is it's very vertical. You can see all the growth is vertical. So if you're on a small lot, this is going to be a great screening plant.
Yep.
So I've been doing all these favorite plant videos with a lot of folks down in the South, and I don't think anyone has mentioned a camellia yet. What do you love about this particular one, Doug?
Jim, this is Camellia sasanqua minoyuki. It's commonly called a spreading camellia because it doesn't get as tall and humongous as some of the others. It'll still get 6 feet on down the line if you never prune it or anything.
Right.
It will spread out a little wider and then it will get tall. So to me in the landscape, that's kind of a nice feature because some camellias, people don't know just how big they're going to get.
Right.
So this is a nice manageable size on a camellia. Couple other things. This has a white double blossom on it, and holy cow, they just bloom so prolifically in the fall.
Yeah, they do.
These things are just loaded with buds that'll pop probably early November in my yards when they'll really get going. Another tough plant that's relatively easy to grow once established.
Right.
These will grow in dry shade. Again, we're in a dry period right now.
Right.
This is not a plant in my yard I'm having to struggle to irrigate. It's holding its own through these dry times.
And I think it's very specific to Camellia sasanquas. You know, the Camellia sasanquas, once they're in the ground you had to baby them at first, and then once they're anchored, boy, I mean, I see old abandoned houses with these camellias on them where they're not getting water, nobody's taking care of them, and they look great. honestly ignored.
Well, when I came down from Michigan years ago, camellias are just a great southern treat for me. I've known some people call them the southern rose, but it's just so awesome in late fall to see these things just packed full of flowers on them.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things. It's everything else in your yard will have quit. In your garden will have quit when these start. Honestly, they're hardy in zone 7 to 9. So most of the people in the southeast they're everywhere. They're everywhere in the southeast. So thank you very much, Doug,
You're
for
welcome.
joining me on this. On one of these videos. I'm getting to visit old friends and making new friends along the way with this new video series, and I get to stop and listen to why these plants are important to other people. So thank you.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk plants with you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.